Hi folks, Grandy here again. In my first video, I explained why a candidate's character is more important than their policies. Policies are still important, but if the candidate doesn't have the character required for the position of POTUS, they shouldn't be considered. In my second video, I listed what traits I feel someone in a leadership position must possess so that they will not only do what's best for all, but will also be a role model to the world for what it means to be an American. If you haven't viewed the videos yet, I encourage you to do so. In this video, I'll be using my traits list as a sort of scorecard to show how I evaluated some of the candidates during the 2024 presidential election. I'll also be showing examples of why I evaluated each the way that I did. Before we start, I should describe how the process I followed went. I researched every candidate, watching interviews, rallies, the debate, social media posts, etc. for a total of 8 hours each, and yes, that is actually me. I then filled in a chart like the one here with the trait being covered in the candidates' names. Then I listed out the 5 items I feel demonstrate that trait. I then listed the strongest examples I found that either meet or don't meet the requirement of that item. I then showed whether the candidate met the requirement with a check or didn't meet with an X. And when I was examining the evidence, I used as much as possible direct quotes from the candidates themselves to minimize misinformation. Then if needed, I use quotes from the candidate's party and/or administration, and lastly, third-party unbiased reporting. Keep in mind too, the examples I show will only be a fraction of the evidence I reviewed to determine the result. In 2024, I only evaluated the Republican and Democratic candidates. After I've concluded showing my evaluations, I will share why I only evaluated those two. Okay, let's get started. First up, at a height of 6 foot 3 inches tall and a weight of somewhere north of 225 pounds, Donald the Mar-a-Lago Mauler Trump. Second up, at a height of 5 foot 4 inches tall and a weight of somewhere south of 225 pounds, Kamala the California Crusher Harris. First trait up is honor. Honor is determined first by being trustworthy. Trump has amassed over 3,500 lawsuits against him and his company over the last 30 years for failure to pay contractors for work, and he lied a documented 30,000 times during his first term in office. Harris, on the other hand, has no criminal record, repaid all her rally bills in full, and during their debate, Harris made 3 inaccurate statements while Trump made 22. Survey says...
Ooh, that one hurt.
Next is integrity. Trump has sent hundreds of social media posts attacking liberals, judges, witnesses, former staff, etc. He created a charity and a university. They were both exposed as fraudulent. Harris's posts are uplifting and positive, and over 200 Republican staffers and over 700 former military and national security officials endorsed her campaign. Survey says... Third is humble. 233 mental health professionals signed a letter condemning Trump as a malignant narcissist incapable of caring about anyone but himself and a danger to the republic. Trump shared a video that said he was sent by God to save the country. Harris never says she knows everything or that only she can fix everything. Her descriptions of her background and accomplishments are fact-based and accurate, not overblown. Survey says...
Ooh.
Next is caring. Trump was found guilty of sexually assaulting a woman. He used an extremely vulgar word to belittle Haitian and African immigrants. Harris comforted a crying woman at a Pittsburgh store campaign stop and treats hecklers at rallies with respect and good humor. Survey says...
Oh, man.
Last is a sense of humor. Trump has sent hundreds of social media posts belittling comedians that have poked fun at him. At the 2024 Al Smith dinner, he demonstrated his complete inability to joke about himself. I have seen no social media posts from Harris attacking any comedians. She even appeared on SNL in a skit with the actress that usually pokes fun at her. Survey says...
Don't!
Next trait up is wise. Wise is determined first by being mature. Trump stole government documents, then denied he had them, then tried to hide them before a federal raid found them. He also touted unproven and potentially dangerous cures and spread misinformation from questionable sources during the pandemic. Harris stayed through tough interviews, showing respect to the hosts and didn't condemn them afterwards or refuse to come back without an apology. She shook hands with Trump at the debate when he obviously wanted nothing to do with her. Survey says...
That's gonna leave a mark.
Next is intelligent. Trump keeps bragging that he aced cognitive tests for dementia like their IQ tests. He displayed an altered map showing the path of Hurricane Dorian that included Alabama that wasn't included in the original map. The hurricane never got close to Alabama. Harris has a long history of supporting teachers and schools, knowing from her own history how important education is. Members of the Senate Intelligence Committee from both parties praise Harris as being whip smart and a great interrogator behind closed doors. Survey says...
Ow! Quit it.
Next item is adaptive. Trump doesn't understand that tariffs are paid by importers, not exporters, and that historically that cost is passed to the consumers. He keeps making statements about history that are factually wrong instead of staying away from the subject entirely. Harris learned from Hillary Clinton's mistake not to attack Trump voters, but to focus on Trump and Vance and their teams so as not to alienate voters. She knows from the past that Trump will use offensive rhetoric to try and get under her skin, and she has succeeded so far to not take the bait. Survey says...
No. Don't be a baby.
Fourth is short and long-term thinking. Trump eliminated the pandemic response team just before the pandemic hit, causing delays in the U.S. response, and his handling of the pandemic response is estimated to have killed an additional 100,000 to 200,000 Americans that need not have died. Harris's focus on renewable energy shows that she knows that alternatives to oil and coal are both the short and long-term future of our country. Her advocacy for the infrastructure bill shows she knows that our failing infrastructure is against our short and long-term interests. Survey says...
I'm still alive, only I'm very badly burned.
The last for wise is someone who admits to and takes sole responsibility for mistakes and failures and credits the team for successes. Trump admitted in a tweet that it was a mistake retweeting the Heidi Cruz statement and then said in an interview he never said it was a mistake. Even when the interviewer said he did, then the tweet was posted for all to see. He blamed the Obama administration, the World Health Organization, state governors, the Chinese, etc. for his COVID response. Then when confronted with the fact that he disbanded the pandemic response team before the pandemic hit, he said it wasn't him but his staff. Harris didn't blame anyone for dropping out of the 2020 presidential race other than a lack of funding, even though Tulsi Gabbard used misinformation, misinterpretation, and unconfirmed facts that turned out to be wrong during the debate to question her prosecutorial record. Harris' first speech as vice president praised some of the leaders from the past who have brought about positive social change without once crediting herself for the win. Survey says...
Oh, you know that's terrible.
Next trade up is leadership. Part of leadership is being collaborative. Trump fired Tillerson over Twitter 5 hours before he spoke to Tillerson himself. Then Goldstein released a statement from the State Department about the incident and was fired hours later for contradicting Trump's story about how Tillerson was let go. His attempts to repeal the Affordable Care Act failed due to the Republicans' refusal to collaborate with Democrats or craft a truly bipartisan solution. Harris co-introduced the Justice for Victims of Lynching Act with Senators Cory Booker and Tim Scott, a Republican, a bill that made lynching a federal hate crime. The legislation passed unanimously in the Senate. Harris participated in often contentious hearings, but still built working relationships with colleagues across the aisle. Survey says...
Oh, come on!
Second is consults experts. Trump did consult experts, but he would often not use their advice, especially when that advice went against his public messaging. He called climate change a hoax despite overwhelming consensus from climate scientists that it is real, and withdrew from the Paris Agreement. Harris has a strong track record of consulting experts, particularly in law, public health, education, and foreign policy, both as a senator and as vice president. She's met with educators, child psychologists, and education policy researchers to understand gaps in access and outcomes. Survey says...
Inconceivable!
Next is being a role model. Trump was caught on tape bragging about groping women without their consent. This shows a casual attitude toward sexual assault and disrespect toward women. His rhetoric around the 2020 election being stolen fueled the Capitol insurrection on January 6th. Harris became the first woman, the first black person, and the first South Asian American to serve as Vice President of the United States. She consistently highlights the importance of lifting others as you rise. She's used her platform to promote voting rights, education for young girls, and the importance of civic engagement. Survey says...
Get the Neosporin, somebody just got burned.
Fourth is visionary. Many of Trump's ideas were reactive, emotional, or designed to provoke rather than build, like the elimination of what Republicans called Obamacare that a lot of people didn't know was the same as the Affordable Care Act, without a clear replacement, only the concepts of a plan. His leadership style often inflames partisan divides rather than bridging them, making it about us and them instead of we. Harris focuses on issues that historically get little political attention but are central to transforming society over the long term, like introducing realistic legislation on the Black Maternal Health Momnibus Act, emphasizing health equity and systemic reform, advocating for STEM education, universal pre-K, debt-free college, and vocational training. Survey says...
Hurts, don't it?
And the last is perseverance. Trump repeatedly promised to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act. When the repeal effort failed, Trump just gave up on it because it was becoming difficult. He backed out of the Paris Climate Agreement, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and the Iran nuclear deal when it was easier to walk away than to fix tough issues. As the daughter of Jamaican and Indian immigrants, Harris faced societal barriers and discrimination from a young age, but her mother taught her never to give up. She steadily worked her way up through the legal ranks, becoming San Francisco's district attorney in 2004, then California Attorney General in 2010, despite facing racism, sexism, and skepticism from insiders. Survey says...
Calm yourself, Tom. I'll tell you when it's time to panic.
The last trait is patriotic.
It's time.
Being patriotic means having a love of country. Even though Trump says he believes in free speech, what he really means is that he believes in speech he approves of, including asking the DOJ to go after companies saying things he didn't like. He encouraged violence against protesters at rallies, like saying he'd pay legal fees if someone punched a protester. Harris has had a long career in public service. She has committed her career to upholding the law, defending civil rights, and working within the democratic system to improve the country. She has called voting the very foundation of our democracy and worked to safeguard it from suppression and erosion. Survey says...
Will 40 of these kill me?
Second is the rule of law. Trump urged the Georgia Secretary of State to find 11,780 votes to reverse Biden's win in the state. Legal scholars widely view this as an attempt to interfere with a lawful election result. During both impeachments and congressional investigations, Trump directed White House officials to ignore lawful subpoenas. Harris defended California state laws in court, even some she disagreed with personally, because of her duty to uphold the law. As vice president, she refrained from commenting on or interfering with Department of Justice investigations, including those involving Trump or others. Survey says...
It's bad, isn't it?
Isn't good.
Next is respects the fourth estate. Trump repeatedly called news outlets the enemy of the people and fake news when they would say something or ask questions he didn't like. Trump's team banned reporters from briefings or interviews if he didn't like their questions. Harris has no history of attacking journalists or outlets, and she allows open questioning even when questions are pointed or critical. Harris has acknowledged the essential role journalists play in a democracy, saying, "A free press is critical to our democracy. Journalists shine a light in dark places and hold leaders accountable." Survey says...
Shall I go back over it? Oh, no, please, I beg you. No, just go on.
Fourth is a peaceful transfer of power. After losing to Joe Biden, Trump refused to concede, claiming without evidence that the election was stolen through widespread fraud. He did not attend Joe Biden's inauguration, breaking 150 years of tradition. After Donald Trump's victory in 2016, then Senator-elect Harris did not dispute the legitimacy of the result, despite political differences. She did not retaliate or speak vengefully toward Trump or his administration, even as they sought to overturn the 2020 election, choosing instead to focus on unity and policy priorities. Survey says...
I can't take much more of this.
Lastly, it respects law enforcement and the military. Trump's re-election campaign posted photos of a gathering at Arlington Cemetery's Section 60, the burial site for military personnel killed while fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq. This is a federal crime. He has championed the January 6 insurrectionists, calling them heroes and political prisoners, while ignoring the Capitol Police who were injured and some subsequently died because of the attacks. Harris, unlike some political figures, has not publicly disparaged generals, defense officials, or troops. She has supported the independence of military leadership from political interference. She has rejected calls to defund the police, instead calling for better training, oversight, and accountability. Survey says...
Thank God. He's finished.
Now, some might argue that Trump doesn't hide his corruption and pettiness, so he could be considered to be honest. I don't agree with that conclusion because it is his malignant narcissism that causes him not to conceal his many faults. He thinks everything he says and does is perfect and that he is above the law, so why hide it?
Look, you're corrupt. We're corrupt. There's one difference. We're honest about it.
Others might argue that he puts America first, so wouldn't that make him a patriot? True patriotism is not putting the country first. It is putting the values and principles and ideals that the country was founded on first, which Trump most definitely doesn't do.
And that's why, for me, patriotism is always more than just loyalty to a place on a map or a certain kind of people. Instead, it's also loyalty to America's ideals. Ideals for which anyone can sacrifice.
Let's do a final tally of how many items each candidate met the requirement for each trait. At the start of this video, I promised to explain to you why I only evaluated the top 2 candidates for the last 3 presidential elections. The reason is when I evaluated Trump in 2016, the results were pretty much the same as you see here. Zeros all the way down.
This is not good. This is not a good thing.
No, but it's consistent.
It was readily apparent to me that Trump had none of the requisite character traits for being president. None. I therefore saw it as my civic duty to do what I could to keep him out of the White House. So I decided that if his closest adversary was in any way qualified, according to my evaluation, that I would vote for them, and that is what I have done in all 3 elections. Those other candidates weren't perfect, but they were far, far better than Trump. Before Trump descended that golden escalator, and along with him the demise of any kind of presidential qualities, I actually had to weight some of the items more heavily than others in order to arrive at the best candidate. Unfortunately, that's not an issue now, and let's be clear, this is not a decision based on personality. That is not the same as character. Personality is who someone pretends to be, character is who they are. In conclusion, my first video showed why character in a candidate is more important than policies. My second showed the traits I feel are needed by a candidate, and this video showed how to evaluate candidates to choose the best one. Only after you have eliminated those candidates do you look at their policies to see if they are reasonable and rational. And as you can see from these clippings and the thousands of others like them, Trump was never the person for the job. Well, that's all I have. I have added at the end of this video screens that show the templates if anyone wants to take screenshots and use them for future elections. Thanks for watching.